This has got like a kind of 80s cosmonaut kind of vibe, you know? Like when people would kind of beam back from the International Space Station in the early days.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And have our subtitles in Russian.
That would be very good, actually. Can we do that? It can be also. They could just be sort of filth. It could be like Russian filth.
Can have like yeah, alien translation. Okay.
So many good ideas we're having.
Leaning into the poor quality.
That's basically our whole aesthetic. You know, there are no mistakes.
Yeah.
There are no limitations. It's all just, you know, artistic grist.
Yeah.
Well then, let's begin. This is us beginning. There. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Dav.
Thank you so much for the videos.
Where are you? Where are we all?
I'm in a little village just outside Dublin, up the Wicklow Mountains, in my studio in County Wicklow, Ireland.
Nice. Europe.
Where are you, Davide?
Yeah.
EU.
Oh, okay, yeah. You guys can have a whole European thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it going on,
It's
but
good. It feels really good. Yeah.
that's it. It's like
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you two have just got that natural chemistry because I guess you're both part of the same trading block.
yeah, exactly. We know how to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than trading. We could visit each other as well, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to go through you, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. Good luck with that. I'm in England. That's where I am.
Yeah.
If you're interested. Is the Wicklow Mountains, is that anywhere near Powers Court?
Yeah, Powerscourt, yeah, is Wicklow as well, yeah.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
okay.
be far from me at all, 20 minutes from me, yeah.
Right. I used to live there when I was a boy.
Really?
In
Oh, really?
in Bray.
Oh, really? Okay, very good. Yeah, the Bray's up the road a bit, yeah, up the steps, yeah.
Yeah, when I was
Yeah, Bray's kind of Wicklow as well.
yeah, when I was 7 and 8, for various reasons, we found ourselves living there. So it's a chance.
Okay.
Maybe we would have walked past each other on a pavement.
Well, that's my wife's there today with my two kids is in Bray. They're going to the National Aquatic Centre for a day out, so...
Right. Wow. Crazy.
They're in Bray right now.
Crazy. Really crazy.
I remember it being a beautiful place.
I'm in Copenhagen, as usual. Denmark. Very good. So, thank you for the videos.
Yes.
It's just amazing how great they are.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy with them. Yeah. It was interesting. It was the first time I've done sort of sequels, as it were. Like, usually, you know, I'm a couple of weeks, a month on a project, and then that's it. Move on, and I'm on something else. So I've never been asked to go back and revisit a world or a character before, and it was interesting doing that because, I mean, there is a thing with sequels where it's sort of kind of diminishing values as well. Like you have to do something new with it. But it was interesting as well because I didn't necessarily have to set up the world again, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, you kind of assume everyone's. It's not a sequel in that sense. It's not like the song is not part 2 of 3 or anything, you know. But it was it was really interesting doing it.
It is. I'm really looking forward to seeing all 3 of them as a piece. I think that would be a really cool thing, sort of unexpected outcome. Because initially you'd made us a completely different, very upsetting video for Swallow.
Right, I forgot about that. Yes, yeah.
That's true.
which was just a kind of collage of just basically eating. I don't know if it was intended to make.
A very upsetting video.
I found it. It made me quite nauseous.
Well, yeah.
It was.
Matt is very
it's funny,
delicate.
Like, wanted it, like, I think with Swallow, and even in the one that's released, I kind of wanted to clash the ideas of. I just wanted about Swallow, about medicine. It made me think of not sort of drug misuse or anything, but like medication and living a medicated life. And I wanted to sort of clash that with eating. But I had a separate edit of that video that I didn't send to you because I thought it was too much, and I called that the vomit edit because there was scenes with vomiting as well. Like, that's where it built it, and I thought it was too much. But yeah, it was meant to be a little bit. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very.
It's funny just watching people eat. But yeah.
Yeah, there's something. I guess that was the point, because it kept repeating, and because of the way the source footage, which was a lot of it felt like a kind of 50s-y, I can't remember, but it had a certain sort of look.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if eating was just more disgusting in the 50s, but it was something about the atmosphere of it just grew and grew, and actually it would have been. I'd like to see the vomit one. Actually, maybe you can send that over, because it felt like it was going to go there. That's what I was expecting, actually.
Well, there is a little bit of vomit. There is a little bit of vomiting in the third one.
Yeah, it's not something I've ever done. They're the only two videos that I ever did a little bit of vomiting.
Doesn't really ring true, Mark. We don't really know you that well, and see, as far as we know, basically more than half of the videos you do have vomiting in them.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, the Dead Disco one, I suppose that was purely to sort of separate the beautiful parts from the other parts. So I had to make it a bit more. It looked like fun that disco. It didn't look it was dark enough that it needed to be. So just sort of vomiting.
Sure. You didn't just start with the vomiting and then build the thing around it.
Yeah, it's important to get the right level as well. Not too much vomiting.
We had a chat with Lauren a few weeks ago about her involvement in the artwork, and so the same thing where the music always felt like it was a soundtrack kind of to something, and I always felt it had a very visual thing, but that was what was so interesting about seeing the work that you made was. Yeah,
it's interesting coming in and taking someone else's audio, and some songs, like folk songs, obviously will paint a picture in their words, but then other songs are, sometimes it's really pretty clear. Like, I mean, so the starting point was Time Machine, obviously, and a lot of it, I suppose, when you're making kind of budget animation is you kind of have to lean into the technical restraints. So the way the song sort of, I mean, even the title Time Machine, there was a line in it about, don't regret the things you do, regret things you didn't do. So that was kind of the starting point, where this was going to be someone's life who didn't change, that they lived in repetition. And technically speaking, that's useful for me, because then I can work on loops. So this guy's life worked in loops sort of two ways, in that every scene was a loop. It was quite static in that way, that when he was on the bus it was looping, but also his life was looping in that he'd go home on the bus and then he'd take the same bus in the next day. So the starting point being Time Machine, that came part of the world, that he lived in this sort of repetition. But the second time you get repetition, that he sort of dreamed of beauty and something more. So then it's kind of extra sad when you see him living that day again, because it's not what he wants,
Yeah.
So it's sort of, technically speaking, I get to use the same footage again, and that's good for me because I don't have to animate full 4 minutes or whatever. But if you can get sort of, give the audience something in between, it reads differently,
Yeah, and that was
kind of the world that was set up.
And that's such a great response to the technical limitations. Though that's always the way. I mean, we what was interesting for us was we made the music out of lots of loop. We would make it out of loops too. You know, there was a lot of capturing and chopping and getting a lot of different material out of different combinations of the same sources. So in some ways, a similar technique, but then we're still building this rich end result, building a world. Because it's amazing how you're right, how differently the same material feels in the video once you've seen his dream, you know, and like you're right, then everything's got a kind of extra melancholy because we've got this sense that there's something in him which is feeling something deeper.
Is it you know, Buggles? Is it Trevor Horn was the producer for Buggles?
Mm-hmm.
Is this Trevor Horn? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I remember reading an interview with him years ago about music production, and it's not a new idea or a unique idea, but he was just talking about how in production, you know, songs, it is verse chorus, but you can build on that, and so it doesn't have to sonically be the same, even though you're returning to something familiar. It doesn't have to be sonically the same. And I always sort of try to apply it visually then as well, so that I am returning to a verse and chorus as well, but something can have changed that what you're kind of giving the audience again, or the listener again, can be different by just sort of extra information. So I always try and do it that, because you know, in my work I have to kind of, there is certain repetition, the song will sort of tend that way as well, but it doesn't have to be the same emotionally. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, it can build. There's a sort of evolution in what you see. You know?
Yeah, there's also, but what I like is that there's a kind of how explicit the narrative is in the video. Which is in its kind of poetic. It feels to me like it's just sort of there's just a kind of they're just them feelings, you know, they're kind of like, and it's not too clear, and even then the looping kind of helps this kind of, it's just a sort of fragment, and the viewer has to try to assemble something their own way, and I feel the same way actually about the songs in how explicit we've always wanted for the sense of it, especially the songs, the lyrics, to be kind of just buried just underneath the surface, so it's not explicitly one thing. It's like there's a strong feeling, but you can't necessarily exactly explain what's happening and what it means, and so you're then in this kind of sort of poetic space, and the visuals had exactly that level of sort of narrative to abstraction.
I suppose as well with music, it's always as well that you can have an imbalance or a fight between what the lyrics are telling you and what the music is saying as well. Mm-hmm. And quite often as well, sometimes I won't dismiss the lyrics, but I'd lean more towards what the music is sort of suggesting, and I'd try to tell a parallel story to what the lyrics are saying. Sometimes I think it's a bit more than just to show it. If a lyric is very, you know, you don't want to literally just show what the lyrics are. So for a Time Machine, it was just one lyric. I know there was lyrics that were darker than what I portrayed in it, but it was the idea of someone just regretting the life they're not living. That's the wrong way to put it. But you know, like that, it was that line about don't regret things you did, regret things you didn't do. Here was someone not doing things.
Yeah.
And then the music sort of filled in the rest.
And what you get is this, you get a third thing, don't you? That's what's so interesting. Like the music on its own is one thing, the film on its own would be one thing. And it's obvious, but when you put them together, especially when you haven't linked them in a literal way, you know, when it's an impressionistic relationship, then you've got this third thing, which is really rich, or has the potential to be really rich, that comes. Which this definitely did. I have to say, I've got one thing. This is my this may be a bit simplistic, and maybe it's much cooler. This didn't happen, but I always hoped that in the last episode, that there would be some, however fleeting, tiny recurrence of the angel, like the kind of flying, not the angel, but the kind of flying, the dream, his flying dream, from the first video.
In my head, I did, I suppose. In the first video, when he has these dreams of beauty, it's white lines on a coloured background where real life is black. So that was kind of the ideal of beauty. So when he goes and discovers beauty, as it were, in Dead Disco, the lines are white. So it's meant to be kind of a callback to this is what he dreams about. That was my sort of rationale of that.
Oh, that's nice. Because then he goes. He then has those encounters with the beautiful objects, right? In the third one.
Yeah.
Culture and the statues and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of with the third one. So, I suppose when the second one was Swallow, and like that, I had made another video, and you got back to me. You said you want to continue on the world from Time Machine. And then, so the challenge then in my head was, well, there is sort of the same technical limitations, but also one of the things in this world is he lives in repetition. So it's how will I continue his story? And I still wanted to kind of bring in elements of the idea of Swallow, that mixing the idea of consuming food and consuming medicine. And I was kind of stuck on it. And then I crashed my car. Not a big crash or anything, but rolled over.
Oh no!
But no, it was sort of like it was like literally on a slippery road, and it wasn't. There was no broken glass. There was no. Okay. But just was driving along, and the car just went out of control, and the back wheel went enough to roll it over. And it was very slow motion. It wasn't high speed or anything like that. And the days after, it would sort of keep coming back to me, like just this like 5 seconds of the wheel going out of my hand and trying to pull it back in. And I realised that that's one way to get repetition back in, is that things can just flash back to you, kind of, you know. So then, like whatever the day after, I started on Swallow, and that was going to be the sort of the crux of that story. So we had we moved it completely to rural. He was just driving along, and then it was the idea of being on painkillers or some sort of medication from his accident.
Sleeping pills or something.
But building on the misery of it, I guess.
I love the fact that the accident happens when the music is relatively uplifting as well. So it's almost, it's very clever. I just think it's a really, that video specific, I mean, I love them all, but I guess Time Machine sets the mood. And Swallow is a really great development because, as you say, it's like you get like the repetition, and that kind of is the stopping of the repetition needs to be an accident somehow because it's so automatic.
Yeah, it lulls you in.
And then the disco is almost like a redeeming. Oh, he has a life. Something happens there, you know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I suppose with Swallow, that's the thing where it's established that we know we have a character who kind of has dreams or whatever. But yeah, the world is established, and so the build up of that is slow as well, where we set up he's driving, and then gradually we had like this traffic coming the other way and it affects him, whatever. And then it rolls. I remember, but again, so the plan for that again the song would lead that when that happens. I remember as well, like there was, even there was a sound in the song that superficially could have sounded like a wheel spinning. So I knew I wanted to be on a wheel spinning at that point. So the crash had to be just before it, kind of, But there was musically there was a change up where it changed enough that you could upset his life enough as well, kind of. And then we sort of briefly kind of go back to his life in the office, and sort of just juxtaposing the sort of flashbacks with he's still living that routine life, but now we've added medication into it as well. So they're the same scenes with a little pill bottle added in, and then we end on a little plane ticket.
I was worried about him after Swallow, and
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, I was thinking, I hope the third one's not going to be even more tragic. I hope there's going to be some. And I remember you had said something in an email about how there was like a slight hint of redemption.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, so the first two, I had complete creative freedom. Sorry, all three of them I did, and it was brilliant, and I love working that way. But the third one, I knew I was either going to have him discover beauty or kill him. And I just wanted to run by you, would you have a preference? I didn't want to hand in something where he dies and you go, this is dark. Or would that be what you wanted? So I emailed you and said, do you have a preference? I don't know which I'm going to go with, but if you have a preference, I'll go with that. And you just said, whichever I want.
Yeah, basically.
But I wouldn't have felt comfortable working on it, just thinking maybe this is the wrong way to go. But yeah, no, he sort of found redemption and beauty in the end, in some way.
Yeah, which makes for a lovely shape, actually, because it leaves. It sort of feels like it leads on a to be continued kind of feeling.
I think musically as well, Dead Disco was different to the other two.
Yeah.
And even the title sort of suggested two possible ways with the words dead and disco. Like, you know, first thing I thought of with just the title alone was, you know, in Sunset Boulevard, where Norma Desmond Carter, she has all her like silent movie friends over to play cards every week, and your man Bill Hogan calls them the Waxworks. Where I don't know why, it just made me think of that this idea of just these sort of still icons or something. But then yeah, it made me think of I know, like Dead Disco to me just became like statues or frozen images of people dancing or something, and that's what I wanted to do then, was sort of juxtapose these sort of classical pieces with a disco kind of. And when I say that loud, it doesn't sound as good.
No, but I think it's a great. I thought the whole thing was great.
And did you? By the time you got to the third one, did you have in your mind that you would want to try and put them together as one piece?
Oh, after one, and you got back to me, you said you want to do two and three. So. Oh no! Once one was finished, there was always going to be one piece. Mm-hmm. So, it's a superficial link between. But I knew, like, going who this character was, it could be a tragedy where he just sort of could find beauty. Again, this would tie back to the first one, that he could die and fly off, and that could be his ending. Or else he could discover beauty and not live the life he was living in Time Machine. Was the other option. No, so once two, like the end of two, there's the plane ticket. So he was going to go away, and I wasn't fully sure what I'd do with him then. But I remember about 10 years ago, I went to a stag do, and I don't get to travel too much. We were in Portugal, but I made a point of like going to museums during the day because it's a nice thing to do. But that was kind of my idea of it, just that. I don't know, like the idea of going to this European city. So all the statues are from the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. I stuck with that.
I've been to the Uffizi myself not long ago, and that reminded me so much of the Uffizi,
Oh, great. When I was working on it was when lockdown started. It was the very start, and North Italy was the sort of hotspot as well. And I remember working and going, this is so unrelatable. Right now, this gallery would just be like it would be just empty, But I just the idea that of sort of going away, and that there was more to. This was his old life, and he got up and he went out to the bright light and chose something new, and liked it, and it was good, and that's sort of it. But that's plenty for a music video,
Yeah.
Doing something and they decide to do something else.
I think that's it. That's enough for most feature films or novels. So, yeah. Yeah, I'd really like that to be out there as a kind of, because this would be the kind of conclusion for us in a way of this part of the campaign.
Yeah.
So I feel like a really nice, intriguing thing, to sort of live out there.
Yeah, no, they do work well together, and I think it's really interesting. I was thinking about it. I was listening to the album. It's a brilliant album. It's a fantastic album.
Thank you.
But it's so funny how those were the order of songs you chose for the order the singles were coming out, and how it quite easily could have been in a different order, because they're not in that order on the album, and it's sort of funny. It's sort of on a whim almost, or it's just by chance that Dead Disco was at the end when musically it goes up, so the short end and then up as well. But it's just sort of by chance really that the narrative takes that journey, because those three songs are in that order, and they're only really in that order because of the order of three singles. It's interesting how it could have been started at Dead Disco and ended on Time Machine. I wouldn't have come up with that plan if Dead Disco was the first song.
Yeah, that's sort of the definition of kind of creative collaboration, I think, in a way, is that we were basically, it's kind of like we were in a weird kind of multimedia band together and kind of jamming, because we these are just open decisions made for our own reasons, and you're responding to them as a filmmaker, and then it's like, I love the way those things happen.
Same thing with Lauren, obviously.
Yeah.
I think, as you say, it feels like the band feels like it's like the whole. It's more than just the two of us making the record now,
And that's one of the things that this whole project has been as I think I probably said when we were talking to Lauren, there's been an awful lot of following our noses and sort of trusting serendipity and things that fall a certain way. And I love the way that we've made these connections, and it would feel very natural, not any pressured way, but if it's again how it happens to go, if there's a way for us to, or maybe all four of us two, and you, Mark, and Lauren, to collaborate in some way down the line, that would be a fascinating thing to try.
Absolutely, yeah.
God knows what it would be, but
yeah, it's funny, like even when you talk about the idea of like comparing animation to jamming, and it's so odd in that, because it's a timely process and there is a certain level of planning, but I do find working sort of like independent animation, and that's it. Usually when I finish something, that's it, it's over, and I move on to something else in a different style. But I do as much as I can try and leave things open, and so even when I started like Dead Disco, I didn't know how it was ending at all. So even when I'd started, it was very much sort of seeing where it'll go. And it's a rare thing to be able to do that in animation, something where you have to, you plan it to death, kind of, It's nice to have the sort of opportunity to, I'm going to start half this story and see where it goes. Very unusual thing to be able to do,
I think you nailed it in that way, because the anime, to be honest, my favorite videos are animated. Well, there is not many, but for instance, one example is, Genius of Love by Tom Tom Club is just such an amazing video. Do you remember that? And but the animation is much more sort of abstract. There is no real story. And there is a lot of videos like that, animation videos for music videos like that. Even if you want, for the our animation videos using Alphonse Auberg, is more like, it's almost like a trip, abstract trip, and even though there is a storyline, it's not really in depth. It feels like what you did is an extra layer of clever, I think, in a good way, not clever, boring. Clever, really good.
But those other videos, the Alphonse ones, have they been re-edited from the original cartoon?
They've been edited to follow the music a little bit,
They are repeats, yeah, no, because they do match them, but the narrative is still there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure if it was just
But-
because sometimes it is just blind luck where something matches perfectly, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, we were very lucky also with this, and because instantaneously the match was perfect. I mean, with the images. This is post when after Lauren decided to do the artwork, and we were gonna go into this kind of somehow drawing, illustrating, which is very appealing for us, as we don't really fancy being in the cover with our stupid face.
My role is it's for bands who don't want to be in front of the camera. That's
So when I showed those videos to Matt, he was very into the imagery. However, though there is a narrative because they are naturally episodes. It's not as deep as the one you. I think you just took it to another level in terms of research and just so much more. I mean, I am very grateful that we could have both worlds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's a nice contrast. Yeah, no, it is. I think the way you released them as well was you sort of exchange between each one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that there's something there between Lauren's artwork and the Alphonse videos and your videos, Mark, and the music. That just feels like a really rich and intriguing sort of thing to have put into the world. There's no logic really. But there is something about it where they do kind of connect. I guess the music is a through line, and there is a sort of there's a weird kind of pathos in all of it, even in Alphonse, which is quite cheerful. But when you put our music up against Alphonse, it immediately gives his situation this kind of emotional kind of weight. And so they're actually. I think I like these things because from the outside, people who don't know anything about us and our process, I hope anyway, will look at it all and go, wow, what a kind of artfully judged collection of things, and the way this relates to this, even though it's just basically whatever happens. Because that's just how these things get done anyway. That's actually how we make music a lot of the time. And sometimes the logic is only apparent, or the connections are only apparent in retrospect.
Yes, but also you have a visual eye and an artistic eye to what's working and what's not, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's so much of what creative work actually hinges on, is allowing things to happen and then identifying that bit, do that again. That's the thing there, you know. I think that's what we're all doing, really.
Can I ask a question to Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, how come you started to do this?
Again, I suppose like everyone, by accident, 10 years ago, I started doing them, and I studied painting in Galway, and that's kind of what I was doing. And then I made a video 12 years ago for a friend's band. The song was called Ants, by a band called Ham Sandwich. And it was really, really well received. Then, by a very sort of strange coincidence, I know you guys like coincidences. So, Ham Sandwich had been on tour with I'm From Barcelona. You know those?
No.
I'm From Barcelona.
Okay,
sorry. Anyway, they'd been on tour, and Ham Sandwich had been on tour with them, and they sent them their video saying, just catching up and saying, this is our news video. And they really liked it, so they put a post on Facebook saying, is there any animators out there who want to make this video? So I replied, and I was their first reply, and I said, I've only made one video, but this is it. And that was the video that they had seen that had inspired them to ask for an animator. So I got that gig, and then from then I just sort of kind of that was enough. Work breeds work. That I was getting emails, and that's sort of, at this stage now, this would kind of be my full-time job, making music videos, and
Nice.
just by accident. Painting is where I started, and I still paint a bit. And I suppose my work is quite painterly. I didn't study animation, so I'm kind of learning on the fly, and I try and sort of teach myself something new with each video I do. So I've done stop motion and a lot of traditional animation. So that's by accident, you know.
It's the best way.